thanks so much for doing this today. How would you dissect the pile of shit we saw last night?
Could it be the first game back off a long road trip type thing, which often is the case, even though I think they had a few days off. By the way, I'm phoning from my car. That's why I look like
All good.
I do.
You're not driving, are you, Brucey?
No, I just pulled over, Jay, and
Responsible.
off the QEW, just took the first side street I could find because I forgot that I had to do this by video and it wasn't just on the phone. But so, no, I mean, I don't think it's, look at it. You play 82 games, you're going to have some clunkers. And the problem is every time it's a clunker in Toronto, it's made to be like you just didn't make the playoffs or something, as we all know. But, I mean, they had a clunker. It was the first game back off the road trip. And we forget they played a very smothering team. LA, when Todd has got the team playing the way he wants to, and Trent Yanni, they smother you. They don't give you, they're in your face all the time. They take away the middle. They do all of those things. They don't give you opportunities, so they can make you look bad on occasion.
There you go, Bruce. What with your career of coaching, when you see that potential to have a clunker like that after a road trip or certain positions where you've seen through experience, like, hey, this is a ripe chance for them to kind of really come out flat. What do you do to help negate that? You got any tactical things you've gone through in your years?
Off the top of my head, you want to make sure you practice the day before. Like a lot of times you have a road trip and then you come off and you take the next day off, and then most times you play or you have a light practice the next day. When we were in Anaheim and we would do that, even if we had played 6 games on the road and we were getting home at 3 a.m, we made sure we practiced the next day and then took the following day off, rather than have the one day and then you get really lethargic. You have an easy practice and then you're not ready for game time come the third day, which is usually the day that you're playing the game. So I mean, that was the thing that we would do. Now you take Todd McClellan, he knows what it's all about. He's been in LA 5 years. So I mean, he's telling his players right now, let's jump on them in the first period. Let's friggin' go. Let's go. And let's get the goal. Let's get the lead so they're not able to come back. And I think that's the Kings followed their game plan to a tilt, and Toronto just didn't have the energy or the wherewithal to put in the fight that they normally do to come back. And like in Tampa, when they scored 2 goals late and they kept coming and coming and coming. There was none of that last night.
We love playing the blame game in this market, sadly enough, as you know. The pattern, I think, is what concerns people the most, is that we see these types of efforts every year. But this happens around the league, right? Like, is there any way to rectify it as a coach? You say, hey, that's a mulligan game. Like, how do you approach an outing like that?
Well, I mean, you have to understand it. I mean, if you're a fan out there and you expect 82 games at the absolute top of your game, you're in for a rude awakening. There's times anybody that goes to work in any job, there's days where I just don't feel like working. I don't feel like going to work, and that happens. I mean, I had a very good coach of mine, Eddie Johnson. I think he might even be in the Hall of Fame. Played for the Bruins back in the day, and was my coach in Moncton, and he would say that he expects a full-time NHL player and to play out of 10 games, 8 games at the top of his game, 1 game to be very mediocre and have nothing to do with the game, just he's there, and 1 game to be really crappy. And so that's out of 10. So you multiply that by 8, that if you're a good NHLer, you should have 8, crappy games a year. Now, what you don't want is you don't want all 20 guys to have at the same time. And I mean, there was hard pressed to find somebody that was exceptional last night for the Leafs, but it happens. I mean, people in Toronto, they get so worried, if they play a bad game. They're going to be there. They're going to end up in first place. They're going to overtake Boston. I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs, but I know that's what's going to happen in the regular season.
Yeah, sometimes the stars align and everyone kind of has one of those games at the same time. There's not much hope in the NHL when that happens, when everyone's as high flying as they are. But wanted to ask you what you think of this new, I guess, some of the additions to the roster, the Leafs look, how they've started off. They had a pretty successful October considering the pattern they normally have. How do you like the new additions to this roster?
I think they're good fits. I mean, let's face it. Like, I mean, I may be different, but I think I watch teams in the summer all the time for the last 20 years, NHL teams. And I mean, they retool. They're going to lose players, so they get players to replace their players. And every now and again, you go out and you get somebody that is above and beyond a replacement. Like, I mean, for example, they went and got Bertuzzi for Bunting. Okay, like, I mean, both similar players, you know. I mean, so I mean, I think they should be the same. But I mean, is Max Domi better than Ryan O'Reilly? I would I would go to say that Ryan O'Reilly is the better fit for that player. I mean, Ryan Reeves is a fourth line guy. I mean, have they've lost some guys and they've gained some guys, but the one thing is the core of their team. I mean, Wall has come to us as a huge surprise and a positive surprise. So that's better. But I think the Leafs are the Leafs. They're the same Leafs. I think they're as good as they are. I think Giordano's another year older. Brody's another year older. So I mean, I don't defense in October and November might be a little different than March and April. We'll see how that turns out. But I mean, like, I don't think they've got markedly better, but I don't think that if they stay the same, it's still a good 110-point plus team.
Yeah, and again, I think everything's going to be judged in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I think it's hard to say that here sitting on November 1st, but it is the truth when it comes to this team and sort of how we break down Brad Treliving's first season. You mentioned Joseph Woll. You know, it's getting louder and louder on social media. Just your thoughts on that whole situation. Do you think Sheldon Keefe has to handle it differently? Just because every game, I mean, we're going to wonder who the next starting goalie is. Like already, you know, should it be Samsonov? Should it be Woll for Thursday in Boston? Do you think because of the market, Sheldon Keefe might have to handle it a bit different, maybe come out and say, hey, this is our guy moving forward, or no?
I don't think so. I think all the fans want that. But I mean, the fans aren't the ones in the rink making the plays and doing the work. I mean, we all have our own opinions, but I guarantee out of the one person in the whole world that knows the players better than anybody is the coach on any team. And he will know what's, you know, I mean, the thoughts on going into Boston. Okay, listen, do we play Wall again? Because he lost his first game in this year, I think, and or do we all of a sudden put Samsonov in? And what if he loses to a great Boston team? Is it going to get louder that, oh, we got to play Wall again all the time? I mean, I think it's a tough decision, but I mean, Sheldon will know what he's doing. If you know, I mean, if it was me, I'd play Wall again and to see how he responds against a great team that after a loss, because I haven't seen that other than the playoffs.
My thinking is, like, I think obviously you want to shelter this guy a bit when talking about Samsonov, just because he's a bit fragile right now. And you look at Boston, McAvoy's not going to be in the lineup. They're playing to the under quite a bit, a defensive-minded team. Or you have Buffalo on Saturday, and I think more susceptible to more of an open game, no?
Well, first of all, you can't ever say Boston. I don't care if they're missing 8 players or the Bruins. They find somehow to be great every night because
True.
they play the same way and they make it very difficult for you. They are not as high scoring a team as, as Buffalo, and they don't have that firepower that Buffalo has. Um, do you play him on the road? Do you play him at home? Where's he better? Let's look at the numbers. How he plays, and all these things will come into play. I remember I had 2 goalies. I only remember one of them. His name's Michael Neuwirth, and
Yeah.
the other guy was the guy we got from Nashville, and we traded Varlamov to Colorado, and so he was supposed to be the number one goalie we had. And to start the season, I looked at his numbers, and he was undefeated, or he had never won against Florida. And the next game we played Tampa, he had never lost against Tampa. So I changed it up and played the backup first and him second. And I thought the world was going to end. The agent phoned, everybody phoned. I mean, we won both games. We did it the analytics ways. And this is back in 2010, I think, or 2009. And, but it's sometimes you look at it and Sheldon might say, oh, what's the record that Samsonov has been against Boston? Did he play good? Is he a better road goalie? Is he a better home goalie? And that might be making the decision, not whether he deserves to play or he doesn't deserve to be playing, or he's fragile or what have you. So I think there's a lot of things that go into it before the decision is being made.
And lastly, what's your read on Mitch Marner? By his standards, been a so-so start. What, he's got 8 points in like 9 games. I mean, for any other player, they're laughing. But obviously, a bit different in this market with Mitch Marner and that top 6 in general. Would you? I know a lot of people have been calling for Marner to go back with JT and for Nylander and Matthews to be a thing again. Like, what would your top 6 look like, and what have you read from Marner so far?
I mean, the top 6 it's all a scramble. I mean, they can change in game, so I'm not worried about that. And you're going to find, okay, the first 10 games, Mitch Marner's going to end up with 9 points if he gets 1 point next game. Okay. But the next 10 games, he might get 25. Everybody goes, he's on fire. He's got that kind of capabilities. And that's, the whole thing about statistics and whether, like I love reading statistics like in baseball. Well, he's only 3 for the last 30. And then all of a sudden he goes 15 for 25 and the average comes up again. It's the same as in hockey. If you're a goal scorer, you might go 8 to 10 games without a goal. And then the next 10 games, you might get 10. Austin Matthews got 6 in his first 2. Nobody says he's only got 1, I think, in his last 7,
True.
but he looks like he's got a lot of goals, 7 and 9. So, I mean, I'm not worried about Mitch Marner. I think he's one of the best players in the league. I thought he was the first time I saw him play, I think, which was about game 10 of his career when we played against him. And I said, this guy's going to be a superstar. And he is. So he's the least guy I'd worry about on that team.